All right, this video is for Module 11 on interpreting GDP, specifically real versus nominal GDP. All right, I have a video within a video. I'm not going to play it, but I will post Mr. Clifford's econ movie Back to the Future underneath this screencast video. So if you choose to watch it, it's there. It's kind of cool. Mr. Clifford compares 1985 to 1955. So it's kind of a cute little thing. So I encourage you to watch it. Otherwise, the big thing that notes-wise that I want you to know is the difference between real and nominal GDP. So real GDP is the value of all goods and services produced in a country in a given year using prices from some sort of base year. If you watch Mr. Clifford's video, he talks about 1985 versus 1955, and the base year is 2009. It doesn't have to be the years that you're comparing. It could be any other year that you choose, okay? So real GDP is just trying to keep things standard. Real GDP is good for helping to adjust for inflation. It's the only way that you really can compare GDP from one year to the next. Otherwise, it's really unfair because prices will go up over time, as they should. So for sorry, for example, in the video they have the example is in 1955, using 2009 as a base year, the real GDP was 2.78 trillion. In 1985, the real GDP is 7.7 trillion. So as you can tell, the real GDP did go up from the 30 years, but it is not, this real GDP is not taking into account the idea of inflation, because inflation will overinflate the value of GDP. Because remember, GDP is the price times the quantity, and if the price goes up, then GDP will go up, but that doesn't show actual growth. So nominal GDP is going to be when you're looking at GDP for a particular country using the current prices from that particular year. So nominal GDP, for example, from 1955 was 415 billion in current 1955 dollars. In 1985, the nominal GDP was 4.2 trillion using 1985 dollars. And you can see the difference between what's on the left and what's on the right as far as real and nominal GDP. And it looks different. And so the nominal GDP kind of paints a very out of whack picture because it makes it look like the GDP went up a lot more than it actually did. Now, the other thing that I wanted to include in here that I've seen recently that students had a problem with trying to figure out is the percent change in GDP. And the percent change in GDP, in order to figure that out, you have to take the GDP from year 2 minus the GDP in year 1, and then divide it by the GDP in year 1. So, for example, if I want to, and I could do it for real or nominal. For example, if I wanted to do it for real GDP from 1985 to 1955, I would have to do 7.7 trillion minus 2.78 trillion and then divide by 2.78 trillion and multiply by 100, and that tells you how much GDP has actually changed, the percent change in GDP from 1955 to 1985. Okay, so let's give this a shot. So here's your example. So I have 3 years here where I have an economy with only 2 products, bananas and back rubs. Not a bad economy. And here's what I want us to determine. The nominal GDP for each year, the real GDP for each year if the base year is the year 2, and the percent change in nominal GDP from year 1 to year 2. So first of all, nominal GDP. All you're going to do is you're going to take the price of the bananas multiplied by the quantity of the bananas. So it's as simple as that. So to figure out nominal GDP, I'm going to take 1 times 5 to get 5. And then I'm going to take the price of the back rubs, which is 6, times the quantity of back rubs, which is 5. So 6 times 5 will give us 30. Now I'm just going to add 5 and 30 together to get a real nominal GDP of $35 for year 1. Again, all I'm going to do is the same thing for year 2. So 150 times 10, so 150 times 10 will give me $15 totally for bananas, and then $7 times 7, that will give me totally $49 for back rubs, and then I'm going to add 15 and 49, and that will give me nominal GDP of $64 for year 2. For year 3, I'm going to multiply 250 times 10, so 250 times 10, and that will give me $25 totally spent on bananas, and then 750 times 10, so 750 times 10 will give me total of $75 spent on back rubs. And then nominal GDP, I'm going to add 25 to 75 to get a nominal GDP of 100. Okay, so that's nominal GDP. That's the first point. The second point is asking to figure out real GDP for each year if the base year is year 2. So for real GDP, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to look at only the base, the year 2 prices, because that's my base year. So I'm going to assume that $1.50 is my price for bananas for year 1, for year 2, and for year 3. And that my price for back rubs is $7. Okay, for year 1, year 2, and year 3. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, take that five bananas that I sold in year 1 and multiply it by the year 2 price for bananas, which is $1.50. So 5 times $1.50 will give me $7.50. For back rubs, I'm going to take 5 back rubs multiplied by year 2 price of $7. So 5 times 7 will give me $35. So now when I add 35 and 750 together, now I'll get the real GDP of $42.50. Now for year 2, I'm going to take that $10 or 10 bananas that were sold multiplied by 150 and get $15. And I'm going to take the 7 back rubs that were sold multiplied by the $7 and get a total expenditure of $49 on back rubs. Now you'll notice, wait a minute, this is the same. The yellow is the same as the red. Yes, for the base year, you will find that nominal and real GDP will be the same. So real GDP will also be $64. Now for year 3, again, I'm taking the price of bananas from year 2 and multiplying it by the quantity at year 3. So 10 times $1.50 will give me $15 totally spent on bananas. And then for back rubs, I'm going to take 10 times the year 2 price of $7. So 10 times 7 will give us $70 totally spent on back rubs. Add them together, 70 plus 15, you'll get the real GDP of $85. So you can tell now how much GDP actually changed when that's excluding the increases in prices that you saw in bananas as well as in back rubs. All right, the last question is asking to determine the percent change in nominal GDP from year 1 to year 2. So I specifically said nominal GDP, so I'm looking at from year 1 to year 2. So I'm only looking at the red, so year 1 and year 2. So in order to figure out the percent change, all I'm going to do is $64, which is the nominal GDP at year 2, minus the nominal GDP at year 1, which is $35, and divide by the nominal GDP at year 1. So that would be $35. So 64 minus 35 divided by 35 and multiplied by 100 to get a percent is 83%. All right, hopefully this helps. Hopefully that makes real and nominal GDP a little bit easier to be able to calculate. Let me know if you have any questions.